Number 10. Alcohol addiction slowly rewires the brain's reward and stress systems until drinking shifts from an occasional choice to a daily necessity for feeling normal. The substance enhances GABA activity for short-term calm while triggering large dopamine releases that reinforce the behavior. Over months and years, the prefrontal cortex responsible for judgment and long-term planning weakens, while the amygdala and HPA axis become hyper-reactive, creating constant background anxiety that only alcohol seems to quiet. Neuroimaging research from the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism and large cohort studies published in The Lancet show measurable shrinkage in the frontal lobes and hippocampus of heavy drinkers, leading to poorer decision, memory gaps, and emotional instability. What begins as social drinking or stress relief gradually takes over evenings, weekends, and eventually entire days. Relationships erode as the person becomes unreliable or emotionally distant, work performance declines through hangovers and reduced focus, and physical health deteriorates with liver inflammation, weight gain, disrupted sleep, and weakened immunity. The brain learns that normal life feels flat and stressful without alcohol, so it pushes for the next drink even when the person rationally knows the damage it is causing. Number 9. Nicotine addiction, delivered through cigarettes, vaping, or smokeless products, creates one of the fastest dependency loops by targeting acetylcholine receptors and delivering rapid dopamine hits that feel like focus and calm. Within hours of the last dose, withdrawal begins with irritability, anxiety, restlessness, and intense cravings. Long-term studies from the American Cancer Society and detailed brain mapping published in Nature Reviews Neuroscience reveal that nicotine alters gene expression in reward circuits, making the brain hypersensitive to cues like the smell of smoke, seeing a lighter, or even certain times of day. The addiction controls daily behavior by turning ordinary situations into triggers that demand immediate relief. Users step outside in bad weather, interrupt meetings, or wake up at night to satisfy the craving. Over years, the cardiovascular system suffers from constant vessel constriction, lungs accumulate damage even with vaping, and the brain requires higher doses to feel normal. Breaking free becomes extremely difficult because the addicted brain has learned that almost every emotion or activity is better with nicotine. Number 8. Opioid addiction fundamentally changes how the brain processes pain, pleasure, and emotional well-being by flooding mu-opioid receptors and suppressing the body's natural endorphin production. What often starts with legitimate pain management quickly escalates as tolerance builds within days, requiring higher doses for the same relief. Extensive research in the New England Journal of Medicine and brain imaging studies show that long-term use shrinks gray matter in areas responsible for decision-making and emotional regulation while dramatically increasing sensitivity to discomfort. The addiction takes control by making normal daily activities feel unbearable without the drug. Users isolate themselves, spend increasing amounts of money, and engage in risky behaviors to obtain more. Physical dependence creates severe withdrawal symptoms including intense pain, nausea, diarrhea, and anxiety that make stopping feel impossible. Hormonal disruption leads to low testosterone, fertility issues, and weakened immunity, while the brain's reward system becomes so altered that natural pleasures lose their appeal. Number 7. Stimulant addiction from cocaine, methamphetamine, Adderall, or other amphetamines produces massive dopamine surges that far exceed anything from natural rewards, training the brain to devalue food, social connection, achievement, and rest. Users experience intense euphoria and laser-like focus during the high, followed by devastating crashes that leave them exhausted, depressed, and craving the next dose. Studies published in JAMA Psychiatry and long-term neuroimaging research demonstrate significant reductions in dopamine receptor density, meaning the addicted brain needs the drug just to feel baseline motivation and pleasure. The addiction controls life through compulsive redosing, sleepless nights, paranoia, risky sexual behavior, and financial destruction. Appetite disappears, weight drops dangerously, teeth decay from dry mouth and poor hygiene, and the cardiovascular system faces constant strain that can lead to heart attack or stroke even in young users. The brain becomes wired to prioritize the next high above all else, often destroying careers, relationships, and physical health in the process. Number 6. Cannabis addiction, especially with today's high-potency strains and concentrates, affects the endocannabinoid system and can create dependence that subtly controls memory, motivation, emotional regulation, and daily routines. Regular use downregulates natural cannabinoid receptors, So the brain begins relying on external THC to maintain balance. Longitudinal research from King's College London and large studies in The Lancet show that heavy users often experience reduced motivation, memory impairment, increased anxiety when not using, and difficulty experiencing pleasure from normal activities. The addiction controls behavior by making periods without cannabis feel boring, stressful, or emotionally flat, leading to frequent use that interferes with work, studying, exercise, and real-world relationships. Many people underestimate its hold until they attempt to stop and discover how much their mood, sleep, appetite, and productivity had become centered around consumption. Number 5. Gambling addiction hijacks the brain's reward circuitry through unpredictable wins and near misses that create stronger dopamine responses than consistent rewards. The uncertainty activates the same pathways as substance addiction, with the brain releasing dopamine on both wins and almost wins. Neuroimaging work from the University of Cambridge and published in Nature Neuroscience shows heightened activity in the reward system and reduced prefrontal control, patterns nearly identical to drug addiction. The addiction controls finances, time, relationships, and emotional stability as the brain constantly chases the next big win while rationalizing losses and chasing them with more money. Sleep suffers, stress hormones remain elevated, and life becomes organized around gambling opportunities, often leading to devastating debt, broken relationships, and legal problems. Number 4. Internet and social media addiction keeps the brain in a state of perpetual anticipation through variable rewards like notifications, likes, comments, and new content. Each ping or scroll delivers small dopamine hits that train the brain to check devices compulsively. Research from Stanford University and published in JAMA Pediatrics demonstrates its reduced gray matter in impulse control areas and shortened attention spans in heavy users. The addiction controls time and attention as the brain begins prioritizing virtual interactions over real-world experiences, sleep, deep work, and face-to-face relationships. Many people find themselves unable to sit quietly, read a book, or have a conversation without feeling restless, as the brain has been rewired to expect constant novelty and validation. Number 3. Food addiction, particularly to ultra-processed combinations of sugar, fat, and salt, activates the same reward pathways as drugs of abuse. These hyper-palatable foods cause dopamine releases that surpass responses to natural foods. Yale University research and studies in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition show brain activation patterns in some individuals that mirror those seen in drug addicts when viewing food cues. The addiction controls eating behavior through powerful cravings, loss of control, emotional eating, and binge cycles that lead to weight gain, metabolic dysfunction, inflammation, and diminished self-worth. The brain learns to use food for comfort, celebration, boredom, and stress relief, making nutritious eating feel unrewarding by comparison. Number 2. Porn and sex addiction hijacks the brain's natural sexual reward system through unlimited novelty and supernormal visual stimuli. Constant exposure desensitizes responses to real partners while strengthening neural pathways linked to the behavior. Cambridge University studies and research published in JAMA Psychiatry reveal reduced dopamine receptor sensitivity and changes in the prefrontal cortex similar to other behavioral addictions. The addiction controls time, intimacy, self-image, and real relationships as the brain begins preferring fantasy and escalation over genuine connection. Performance anxiety with real partners often increases, leading to further isolation and consumption. Number 1. The single most important reality about every type of addiction is that each one hijacks the brain's ancient survival and reward mechanisms, turning them against long-term well-being and freedom. Different addictions target slightly different circuits, but all of them overactivate dopamine and reward pathways, weaken prefrontal control, create powerful memory associations, and generate tolerance that demands more of the substance or behavior to achieve the same effect. Comprehensive 2025 reviews from the World Health Organization and The Lancet confirm that addiction literally reshapes brain structure and function over time, making normal life feel less rewarding while the addictive behavior becomes increasingly compulsive and necessary. These patterns are not signs of weak character or moral failure. They are the result of powerful neurochemical processes that evolved to help us survive and seek rewards, but have been hijacked by modern substances and ultra-stimulating behaviors. Understanding exactly how each addiction seizes control of your brain, emotions, decisions, and daily life gives you the clearest possible map for regaining freedom. The brain remains remarkably plastic even after years of addiction. With the right support, strategies, and commitment, the same circuits that once reinforced destructive patterns can be rewired toward healthier sources of reward, meaning, and genuine satisfaction. Recovery is not only possible, it is one of the most powerful transformations a person can experience. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe to see more.